This is CBC Here and Now.
The cabinet minister responsible for conservation in our province was found with the wrong kind of weapon.
A busy weather week on tap, snow, rain and wind all on the way.
You know, we have an industry which has been totally avoiding and being exempt from environmental assessment.
A court has ruled a salmon hatchery expansion in Stephenville must undergo an environmental assessment. Well, good evening. He's the minister in charge of this province's Wildlife Act. He also had to apologize to an opposition MHA for accusing him of being on the wrong side of our hunting laws. But tonight, we are going to reveal how Jerry Byrne found himself in trouble for violating one of his own department's hunting regulations. In July of 2017, Jerry Byrne was appointed as Minister of Fisheries and Land Resources. That means he is the minister responsible for protecting wildlife and enforcing the law. CBC News has learned that on October 21st, just 3 months after his appointment, Byrne was hunting near Gaff Topsails in central Newfoundland. A wildlife enforcement officer caught him with a shotgun that he should not have been using. The officer fined Byrne $86.25 for hunting with an unplugged shotgun. The wildlife regulations say a person shall not carry a repeating automatic or auto-loading shotgun unless that shotgun has been permanently plugged so that it is incapable of holding a total of more than 3 shells. Well, in order to be in compliance with the law, Jerry Byrne's shotgun should have had this plug inside it to reduce the number of shots. If you're not familiar with hunting and don't know the difference between a plugged gun and an unplugged gun, this is plugged. So a plugged gun gives the animals you're hunting a fighting chance. This is unplugged. Caught with a weapon that violates the wildlife regulations, this is the same cabinet minister who had to apologize last November for accusing PC MHA Jim Lester of being in favor of poaching.
I'm sure, Mr. Speaker, some in this House, somewhere, might appreciate his active defense of poaching. Dispatching animals, hunting animals at night, is a violation of the Wildlife Act and has been for a very, very long time, Mr. Speaker. So I'm not sure who the honourable member for Mount Pearl North is referring to, but if he has any evidence, any information about poachers and poaching activity, which he seems to be endorsing, he should report it to the authorities. But then again, maybe this honourable member is not always on the side of the law himself.
Now, Jerry Byrne emailed us today confirming that a wildlife officer did pull him aside in October of 2017. And Mr. Byrne says the required magazine plug was not properly fixed in place and that he paid the penalty. Some further context, Byrne says it was a new 20-gauge long gun and that the gun had not previously been fired. What's unclear, though, is just how Mr. Byrne's new shotgun came to be unplugged. He is, after all, the minister responsible for wildlife protection, and he ended his explanation to us by saying it was a good reminder to take better precautions, to follow all necessary wildlife regulations, and to encourage others to do so as well. Well, March came roaring in like a lion. Today's storms closed schools, government offices, and some businesses for the day. Had some people digging out yet again. This is the 23rd storm of this. Is that right?
That's right.
22 on Friday?
That's right.
All right, let's bring Ashley in with all this. A lot of snow.
Yeah, we did see a lot of snow, but not everywhere did we see snow today. It was actually a pretty lovely day in other areas across the province. So, It's March. I know we're all down. We're seeing storm after storm after storm, but that low pressure system is heading off. It's going to be a quiet night tonight, but we are going to watch this next one moving in. We're already starting to see some cloud cover and flurries push in for Lab West. That's going to continue to head across the province as we head into tomorrow. And then a big mess is on the way. It doesn't look like much right now, but that's going to move in for Wednesday. And on top of all of this snow, and that we've been seeing, we're in for some warmer temperatures, some rain and some wind. So Environment Canada has already issued a special weather statement for the majority of, for all of Newfoundland. And so we're going to see that move in for Wednesday. I'll have all those details. We'll talk about how much snow has already fallen and what's on the way this week weather-wise when I come back.
Well, thanks, Ashley. Getting back to provincial politics now, Dr. Andrew Furey hasn't even launched his Liberal leadership bid yet, but he's already facing some criticism. And it comes over an email that he sent over the weekend. Here now is Peter Cowan reports.
Anthony, this email was sent out on the weekend to invite Liberal supporters to a big event tomorrow night. It's expected that Andrew Furey will officially join the race to be the next premier. But some people are wondering why they got the email because they never gave him their email address. On Twitter, Pat White tweeted, "I did not permit the Liberal Party to give my contact info to Andrew Furey. I did not give Furey permission to use it. He's not even green-lit to run yet. This is a gross breach of privacy." The concern from the Liberal Party members is that Andrew Furey or his volunteers have had access to their personal information, but the Liberal Party insists that didn't happen. The party's executive director told me we can confirm there was no unauthorized access or exporting of the Liberal Party's global list of members' supporters during the 2020 leadership election. Information of this kind is not available to campaigns until after a candidate has been approved in accordance with the rules. So how did Andrew Furey get this email address? His campaign manager says they came from volunteers and supporters and from social media. But for one Liberal member in Bay Verte, that's even more concerning. He signed up during the 2013 leadership and is wondering who hung on to his information.
This just basically confirms that the party is giving out this private information to volunteers, and that those volunteers are hanging on to that information for whoever knows how long, and they're disseminating this information to whoever will. They're just giving it away to a potential leadership candidate.
Furey hasn't even officially entered the race, but he has been picking up support. Over the last few days, a half-dozen members of the Liberal caucus and cabinet have already been tweeting their endorsements. But this email issue isn't going away. John Abbott, who has said he's also going to run for the race, has asked the party president to investigate how those emails ended up in Furey's hands. Anthony?
Thanks, Peter. Here now is Peter Cowan. Meanwhile, on the eve of Furey's launch, two cabinet ministers have announced that they are not going to run for the leadership. Health Minister John Haggie says he had been encouraged to run, but decided to continue focusing his efforts on serving his district. In a tweet today, Dr. Haggie wrote, "We have excellent candidates, so I know the party is in great hands." Cabinet Minister Bernie Davis also announced that he is not running. Davis had initially expressed interest in the leadership shortly after the Premier announced his resignation. Today he wrote, "I have been very humbled by the response that I've received from so many people. I enjoy representing the people of Virginia Waters Pleasantville and look forward to working with the new leader of the Liberal Party." Well, new research says cancer will continue to take a heavy toll in Newfoundland and Labrador and right across the country. The study says thousands in this province will be among the more than 225,000 Canadians diagnosed with cancer in 2020. Here now is Mark Quinn reports.
The 2020 cancer projection for this province is difficult to read.
What we're seeing in Newfoundland and Labrador is that it has some of the highest cancer rates in the country.
Research published in the Canadian Medical Association journal found lung, breast, colorectal, and prostate cancers continue to be the most common types in this province.
This year alone, we expect almost 4,000 Newfoundland and Labradorians to be diagnosed with cancer, and we expect over 1,500 people in this province to die of cancer.
The report confirms that lung cancer continues to be the deadliest cancer in this province. But the report also highlights the ongoing challenges of treating pancreatic cancer.
It's something we've been seeing just since 2019, is that pancreatic cancer is now expected to be the third leading cause of cancer death in Canada, having surpassed breast cancer last year.
Despite that, Smith says there is hope for the future of cancer care.
We are seeing progress with cancer every day. The research that has been done to help us understand more about cancer prevention, early detection, treatment has gone a long way to helping us see those decreasing cancer rates, decreasing cancer death rates, increases in survival.
Smith says that since the early 1990s, the cancer survival rate has increased from about 55% to 63%. Mark Quinn, CBC News, St. John's.
Several wild salmon advocacy groups in this province are celebrating a milestone court decision, one that will slow down a plan to add millions of farmed salmon to sea cages on the south coast and possibly result in greater scrutiny for the troubled aquaculture industry. Here now's Terry Roberts has that story.
Supreme Court Justice Daniel Boone has upended a plan to dramatically expand the Indian Head smolt hatchery near Stephenville. He ruled last week that the Environment Department needs to take another look at the project, and that's being viewed as a victory by critics of aquaculture.
We have an industry which has been totally avoiding and being exempt from environmental assessment, and that's the problem that this law case tackled.
Former Environment Minister Andrew Parsons approved a plan by a subsidiary of aquaculture giant Maui. The plan was to expand annual production at the hatchery from 4.5 to nearly 7 million smolt. But there was no requirement to do an environmental assessment of the existing sea cages on the south coast, where those millions of additional fish would be raised to market size. Justice Boone says that was a mistake, and the matter is now back before current Environment Minister Derek Bragg. The case was brought before the court by a Halifax-based environmental law charity called Eco Justice, on behalf of groups such as the Salmonid Association of Eastern Newfoundland. It's the third legal setback for the aquaculture industry in as many years, and this critic hopes government will finally get the message.
From here on in, the Newfoundland government is not going to be able to do this. They're not going to be able to do a flimsy environmental assessment of a hatchery and completely ignore the sea cages, which is where all the environmental damage occurs.
A government statement says environment and justice officials are now working to determine the implications of the ruling. But it's now very likely that Maui will have to undergo a more comprehensive environmental review of its proposed expansion. Maui would not agree to an interview, but released a statement saying, "We await the minister's decision about next steps and look forward to having clarity as to what we must do to satisfy all requirements to advance this sustainable, multi-million-dollar aquaculture project." It's the latest setback for Maui, which is still recovering from the die-off of more than 2.5 million salmon last year. When you add the challenges of disease and the threat to wild salmon, White says the industry is in a tailspin. He says government is partly responsible because it has allowed the industry to sidestep the environmental process. Terry Roberts, CBC News, St. John's.
Well, in national news now, there are 27 confirmed cases of coronavirus in Canada. That number jumped over the weekend with the diagnosis of 10 new cases in Ontario, 3 of those just today. There are 8 cases in British Columbia as well as 1 in Quebec. The World Health Organization says the global spread of the virus is changing.
In the last 24 hours, there were almost 9 times more cases reported outside China than inside China.
Now, worldwide, more than 89,000 cases have been reported in 61 countries. There have been more than 3,000 deaths. Japan, South Korea, Italy, and Iran are the biggest concerns right now. Well, for a second day, the world's most popular museum has remained closed. The Louvre shut down yesterday amid reports that workers are worried about the spread of the virus. Tens of thousands of people visit the Louvre in Paris every day. A union rep says museum workers are worried because visitors come from all over the world. Last year, 9.6 million people visited the Louvre, and nearly 3/4 of them came from abroad. Over the weekend, the French government made the move to ban any indoor gatherings of more than 5,000 people. Well, back at home, police are investigating the death of an international student from Memorial University. On Saturday, officers were called to a home on Elizabeth Avenue, not far from the St. John's campus. Police say there is no concern for public safety. Well, the cell tower that tipped over and fell on a building in St. John's has been removed, and Bell Alliant is now trying to figure out just why it fell. Police and firefighters from the city rushed to the building on Blackmarsh Road just after 7 o'clock Friday evening. The top of the tower appeared to have cracked off and fallen onto the building that houses a party rental store, a thrift store, as well as a bowling alley. The building was evacuated. Bell Alliant tells us it has workers on the site along with the manufacturer, and they're also looking at whether the tower needs to be repaired or perhaps replaced. A Torbay minor hockey team had scored a massive win for the Rainbow Riders Therapy Program and for Northeast Eagles goaltender Sam Chalk and his brother Nathan. The win is especially sweet.
This place is my home away from home, and I often say riding gives me freedom and the horse becomes my legs.
As we've reported before on Here and Now, the Northeast Eagles took part in this year's Chevrolet Good Deeds Cup. And that comes the top prize of $100,000 for the winner's charity of choice. And their win was announced on Hockey Night in Canada this weekend. In total, the minor hockey team has raised $124,000 for Rainbow Riders.
From our barn to yours.
It started with the idea to provide free riding for the children at Rainbow Riders Therapeutic Riding Program.
But it became so much more. Hockey and riding aren't so different. All kids have their own passions. Kindness is contagious. Our whole community rallied around us.
We raised enough for a free week of riding for all the kids, a badly needed utility vehicle, and even more for the program.
It's an experience that we will never forget. When you come together and do good deeds, everyone wins.
And I hope we have no snow next winter at all. Not even a snowfall.
Say it ain't snow, our 23rd storm of the season. And just where are we going to put it all? Welcome back to the program. First, we start with breaking news.
Temperatures are dropping into the minus single digits.
Time now to check in with our Carolyn Stokes.
It is just packed with people.
The company says it's picking up salmon.
Looks like an absolutely gorgeous afternoon. What's getting you through this winter?
The help of my boyfriend. Without him, I don't know what I would do.
Is there anything you're looking forward to after this?
Summer. No snow, and I hope we have no snow next winter at all. Not even a snowfall. But yes, it's been a hard one for everybody for sure.
Do you have another shovel? I can help you a little bit.
I'm actually using my neighbor's right now because mine is buried up on my porch.
How done are you with winter?
I can't say I'm totally done with it. It's all a matter of state of mind. A good snowblower certainly helps.
You have a snowblower, so I think you're in good hands.
Yeah, there's some people I pity sometimes. I see them out struggling, and it's I can't imagine that if you don't have a snowblower or something to help, it's a struggle. Especially this time of year, and we got this much snow, and there's more to come. You know, but for me, it's not too bad. I'd prefer to be down south, but that's not a reality, so enjoy what I can.
Well, we found lots of people shoveling or snowblowing, but now we found someone actually enjoying the weather. What are you doing?
A slide!
That's so great. So how are you getting through your winter?
Good. Lots of shoveling.
Shoveling. And this is how you're getting through the winter then,
Yeah,
yes?
better than homework.
How many days have you been off this year?
A lot. I think like 2 weeks.
Wow. Crazy. So what are you looking forward to most about the winter being done?
Going on trips in the summer.
That's what's getting you through the winter.
Yeah, we have a Germany trip booked.
Oh, that's exciting. Very exciting.
Yeah, I'm sure the temperature, no matter any city in Germany, is probably a little bit better. Not as much snow as here, but hey, anyhow, people making the most of it, having a bit of fun.
I think today broke a lot of people, though.
It did. Actually, the first person you spoke to, that young woman, I was in the same boat this morning. I couldn't find my shovel. Amateur move.
Yeah.
Left it, and is it in the front? Is it in the back? Anyway, eventually I found it, but it took a while.
It was buried, I'm sure, under a mountain of snow again.
Yeah.
Yep. Another. The weekend was beautiful, though.
It was.
So it kind of just.
Yeah. Ended the weekend that way.
I have no words. Yeah, I have no words.
So you're measuring, were you?
Today, yeah, well, the airport was doing a great job measuring that, so it just took some of the numbers. Let's take a look at where we are in St. John. It has been a snowy winter. So today, 24 centimeters of snow was reported with 52 centimeters on the ground. Now, keep in mind, that was 100 and, I can't remember the number, 130 something when we saw the blizzard. And snow total.
We're 30 above the norm?
Yes, we are.
Wow.
And we are only in March, on March 2nd. So, yeah, about 376 centimeters has fallen so far in St. John's. We do have a couple of, I say months, I want to hesitate to say that, but you know, we do have a little bit to go, so we could add to this number for sure. But in the next couple of days, we are looking at temperatures actually climbing, so we'll probably put a dent into some of that snow there. Here's where we sat today, temperature-wise, into the minus single digits right across the board, except a little bit further north up through Labrador, minus 15 for Nain, minus 10 for Hopedale, but otherwise, yeah, those minus single-digit temperatures. We've dropped a few degrees now, sitting into the minus 5-degree range right now for St. John's, minus 9 in Cartwright, and Happy Valley Goose Bay still mild there, sitting at about minus 4. So the area of low pressure that we did see affecting most of eastern Newfoundland, really it was a beautiful afternoon for most of the island, but that low has moved off. We've got another area of low pressure moving in. That's bringing some snow for Lab West and towards central areas of Labrador. So we'll see that spread through tonight. Good, probably 5-ish centimeters is on the way for you. Otherwise, a quiet evening and overnight on tap for the island. We'll see that cloud cover push through as we head towards the morning hours with that potential for some flurries as well. But overnight tonight, dropping into those minus double digits, minus 11 for Corner Brook. Generally light winds. And the winds will ease for the east. Minus 9 will be the overnight low in St. John's, minus 11 for Gander. And then similar temperatures up through Labrador as well. So pretty mild evening, minus 10 for Lab City with winds generally out of the south. And then about minus 12 for Happy Valley Goose Bay. And again, you're going to see that flurry activity continue through the night. So tomorrow, we'll see that little bit of disturbance move through. bringing some snow to start along the south coast. We get into that southerly flow, so things should actually change over to rain at some point into the afternoon. We'll notice that as we head towards eastern Newfoundland as well. You're looking at snow to start, then changing over to some periods of rain to the afternoon. That's because those temperatures are going to climb up. So before we get to that point, though, we are looking at some accumulating snow for the south coast, pointing at somewhere between maybe 10 to as much as 15 centimeters. Probably inland, just because we are going to see that onshore flow, certainly into those higher elevations. Along the west coast as well, you're looking at somewhere between 5 to 10 centimeters falling, and then again changing over to rain, certainly for eastern Newfoundland, because those temperatures are going to be jumping up into the mid-single digits. So southwesterlies 20 to about 40 kilometers per hour, or rather 40 to 60 kilometers per hour tomorrow. Just a couple of centimeters, less than 5 centimeters before we start to see that change over to rain. Areas through central, you'll likely end as drizzle. You're going to see a couple of centimeters before that happens as well. And then as we head towards the west coast, that's where we'll see the majority of the snow, west and south coast. 3 degrees around Gross Moor and Corner Brook, sitting around 2 degrees, and those winds will be generally out of the south and breezy, 50 kilometers per hour. -1 for St. Anthony. We've got that flurry activity moving up towards Labrador as well as it sweeps through, but again, less than 5 centimeters possible. -4, mild day for Lab City. Happy Valley, Goose Bay, sitting around 0. You'll actually see that sun, or should see that sun, peek out later on in the afternoon. So mentioned the next weather maker moving in for Wednesday. Special weather statement in effect. Some warm, mild temperatures yet again, and some rain on the way. I'll have all those details coming up.
Thanks, Ashley. Newfoundland and Labrador's Special Olympians return home today wearing medals and lots of really big smiles. And our cameras were there at the airport in St. John's as athletes arrived from the eastern part of the province. They got home. Others are flying into Gander and then Corner Brook, heading all across the island and the Big Land. The athletes competed in a variety of sports, including floor hockey, figure skating, skiing, and 5-pin bowling. The 2020 National Games took over Thunder Bay for an entire week. It was a long way from home for many of these competitors, but they made many new friendships along the way.
I was doing snowshoeing. I ran the 5K and 10K and the 4x100 relay.
How do you prepare for something like that?
You just train really hard and do your best.
And what sports were you playing?
5-pin bowling.
5-pin bowling. I see a medal around your neck. You must have been good.
Yeah, wonderful.
So tell me about the best part. What was the best moment?
The best part was with my gold medal. And of course, having personal bests.
Tell me about that.
Well, I went in with a time of 31 minutes and 50 seconds, and I knocked 4 minutes off my time.
On snowshoes? Oh my gosh. Okay.
Yes.
Nice. Okay. And do you have? Is that 2 silvers?
Yes.
Excellent. Amazing. Congratulations.
Thank you.
But what was really nice in Thunder Bay is they had a lot of the school children adopt different athletes from different sports. And we had one athlete, Regan Robinson, who was adopted by a grade 4 class, and they all came out to cheer her on at bowling. It was amazing.
Well, the families of soldiers with PTSD are not happy after a change in the mental health services that those soldiers and veterans can access. to a national story now. The Liberal government is facing a backlash over cuts to mental health services for families of soldiers who have PTSD. Veterans Affairs Canada recently tightened access to the program. Now, officials deny that they're cutting people off, but as Murray Brewster tells us, some families are outraged.
Has thus far been a delicate exercise in damage control that may have backfired. A Commons committee is looking for answers about how the families of former soldiers with PTSD are affected by stricter counseling rules, guidelines that govern how and when spouses and children can access services. Appearing before the Veterans Committee recently, veterans officials did their best to downplay concerns. The official later clarified to say an unknown number of families had been refused coverage. The parsing of words shocks Veronica Jones, whose 14-year-old daughter's anxiety treatment had been covered by Veterans Affairs until last September, when she was cut off.
I think they'll do anything to perpetuate the lie to the government and to the general public.
Her husband returned from Afghanistan with a traumatic brain injury and PTSD in 2005. 2 doctors have stated her daughter's condition is directly attributable to living in a stressful home alongside someone with a mental illness. Other families also say they have been dropped.
This policy that they're now becoming more strict on goes against every research paper out there.
The Veterans Minister's office has said it's been asking officials to be flexible in applying the rules, and it tells CBC News at least 133 families of veterans have received letters telling them they may no longer get coverage. Murray Brewster, CBC News, Ottawa.
Well, earlier on here now, Mark Quinn told you about new research which says more than 4,000 Newfoundlanders and Labradorians are going to be diagnosed with cancer in 2020. Well, it seems that costly cancer drugs are being thrown out because of the way these medications are packaged. Researchers say it's costing the healthcare system and taxpayers millions of dollars. Here's GoPublic's Rosa Marcatelli.
This is the medication that I ended up having to get from the pharmacy.
Medication that costs almost $8,000 per vial.
I thought to myself, wow, am I ever glad I'm a Canadian? Am I ever glad that I don't have to put out of pocket for this?
The price was surprising enough until Deb Hebert had the drug injected by a nurse and realized her dose only required about 3/4 of what was in the vial. The rest was thrown out and a new vial opened the next day for her second dose. The remainder of that one thrown out too. Hebert is on leave from her job in finance at CBC while she battles non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. This researcher says millions of dollars worth of cancer drugs are being wasted because drug makers only distribute the medications in one-size-fits-all vials that hold too much for most patients. Leftovers are often tossed over concerns about sharing vials and a short shelf life.
What people don't realize is that wastage is actually a real cost that's borne by probably the provinces or hospitals or ultimately the taxpayers.
He worked on a study that looked at 12 high-priced injectable cancer drugs. It found $102 million worth of medication is being wasted over a 3-year period. One solution, says this drug policy researcher, is to force drug makers to produce different vial sizes to reduce waste. The UK did that 4 years ago and is now saving millions a year in drug costs.
It's appalling that, again, we have so many demands on our healthcare dollars for drugs and doctors and hospitals and so on, to see this kind of waste.
He says the group that negotiates prescription drug prices in Canada has to make different vial sizes part of the deal when choosing which drugs to buy. But the Pan-Canadian Pharmaceutical Alliance won't say if it does that, only that negotiations are confidential at the request of the manufacturer. Sanofi, which makes Hebert's medication, says it sells the drugs in one vial size because it's a typical dose for the majority of the patient population when you take spillage into account. Rosa Marcatelli, CBC News, Calgary.
We started it when we were at our old school and we wanted something to kind of remember and bring everyone back.
The show must go on. Bishop Field students aren't in their school, but they are still making art for their annual show. To an in-depth story now, as CBC News' 3-month-long investigation has found problems in Canada's growing surrogacy industry. Now, it's illegal to pay a surrogate in Canada, but you can reimburse her for pregnancy-related expenses. In our series called Baby Business, CBC has found several families who fear they're paying more than they should. Investigative reporter Chris Glover has the story.
Since I can remember, I wanted kids.
For Anna Camille Tucci, a baby almost didn't happen. In 2017, she was diagnosed with ovarian cancer, but this past December, a surrogate delivered her son. Tucci agreed to reimburse her a monthly maximum of nearly $2,000 for pregnancy expenses.
We thought that though she would never really actually meet that max.
But the surrogate did every month. Tucci had paid an agency to handle the process and the money. Canadian Fertility Consulting, or CFC. This expense breakdown is all she could get.
This kind of made us think, wow, where is all this money coming from?
With categories like $700 monthly paid out for groceries.
You know, the two of us together, I don't think we spend that much.
CFC's policy is to provide receipts after the birth. Canadian law says reimbursements must be pregnancy-related, or those paying could face 10 years in prison and a $500,000 fine.
No one wants to be in a situation where they're caught doing things that they weren't supposed to be doing without even knowing.
We found 4 other families who used CFC services and have similar concerns. One father paid $5,000 for his surrogate's expenses, even though she miscarried in the first month.
Oh, a lottery ticket.
We reviewed his surrogate's receipts with his lawyer and found a lottery ticket, duplicates, and many dated before he'd met his surrogate.
This is not playing within the rules, so it's putting everybody at risk.
A former CFC surrogate whose voice we've disguised says the agency encouraged her to submit as many receipts as possible.
You just save all of your receipts from the second you're matched. Doesn't matter. Anything, you save it. So it's a little shady. Like a lot shady.
CFC's owner, Leah Swanberg, is the only person in Canada to have been charged with paying surrogates. She pleaded guilty in 2013 and paid a $60,000 fine. In an initial interview, Swanberg said she now has 6 employees reviewing receipts.
I will not take that risk for any client or any surrogate. And so I am extremely diligent with my team.
But later refused to address specific allegations we found.
It puts us in such a vulnerable situation because, again, at the end of the day, all we want is that baby, and we'll do anything for it.
Chris Glover, CBC News, Toronto.
Now, in national news once again, Justin Trudeau spoke at a mining convention in Toronto today. The Prime Minister brought 3 cabinet ministers with him to show the government's desire to continue working with the resources sector, but also tackle climate change. This after nearly a month of rail and road blockades right across Canada.
Mining has long been a fundamental building block of our economy. Mineral production happens in every Canadian province and territory. Workers have often told me, this is the kind of job I can raise a family on, the kinds of opportunities that keep our young people in our town. Kinds of projects that lift up entire communities, including many Indigenous communities. And that's why our government wants to keep our mining sector strong and growing.
Well, to American politics now, where the race to become the Democratic presidential nominee is closer than ever. Former Vice President Joe Biden seems to have locked down some key endorsements ahead of the so-called crucial Super Tuesday vote. And as he tries to catch up to Bernie Sanders, another factor may upend this race. The CBC's Katie Simpson explains.
Michael Bloomberg is about to find out if his unconventional campaign is resonating. The former New York City mayor's name will be on the ballot tomorrow for the very first time as voters in 14 states go to the polls for Super Tuesday.
I've won 3 elections so far. I don't plan to start losing now.
Bloomberg met with volunteers in suburban Virginia today, vowing to stay in the race as the field narrows. Senator Amy Klobuchar suspended her campaign, as did former Mayor Pete Buttigieg. Both are expected to endorse Joe Biden.
I talked to Mayor Pete and to Amy Klobuchar. Both talked to Pete earlier today and Amy just a little while ago. And I wish them all the best. I thought both of them behaved themselves, is a nice way to phrase it, but they represented their country and their states very well. And I felt sorry for them, but I'm in it to win it.
Bloomberg has long been seen by some voters as a backup candidate, a high-profile option for moderate Democrats if Biden's campaign faltered.
Thank you, thank you, thank you, South Carolina!
But with his enormous win on Saturday in South Carolina, the former vice president is finally catching up to frontrunner Bernie Sanders.
I just want Trump, schlump, glump to be history, November, whatever, 2020.
Bloomberg supporters are unfazed by the evolving race, though some would not be surprised if he's thinking long and hard about the future of his candidacy.
And I feel he'll make the right decision. I feel he makes the best decisions besides making the right decision.
Michael Bloomberg has been polling well in key states, including California, Texas, and right here in Virginia. It could be enough to split the moderate vote between him and Joe Biden, paving the way for Bernie Sanders to have a very big night. Katie Simpson, CBC News, Manassas, Virginia.
The weather update is brought to you by Belltone, your partner in better hearing.
All right, well, if you were up shoveling or snow blowing, that could have been good practice for midweek.
Well, it depends on where you are.
Okay.
Yeah, because you're going to want to continue to get rid of the snow that's there, or else it's going to turn into some wet, gross weather.
Okay. All right, so shovel or squeegee, depending where you live.
That's right, yeah, absolutely. Let's take a look at the future tracker and show you exactly what is going to happen as we head overnight Tuesday into Wednesday morning. That area of low pressure will move in, and it's going to bring some mild temperatures with that. We've got that southerly flow out ahead of the system. And with that, it's going to bring in those warmer temperatures. So you can see some of the yellows. So that's heavier rain. That's expected to continue through the day on Wednesday as this low tracks. It looks like at this point it's going to track just into southeastern portions of the Big Land. So that's why we're going to see mainly rain for the island. Anywhere north of that should be snow. And then the winds are really going to ramp up with this one as well. So it's going to continue really through Tuesday, or Thursday rather, and then we get into some of that colder air, which means everything's going to change over to snow again. So here's what we'll be sitting temperature-wise: 5-6 degrees for the majority of the island. We've even got temperatures pretty mild, but on the zero, below zero, up through Happy Valley, Goose Bay. You're looking at about -2, -8 for Lab City. And then areas around the northern peninsula, you're still looking at minus single digits. So with this, we do have a special weather statement in effect. The winds are going to be strong, like I mentioned. So we're looking at wind gusts upwards of about 100 potentially kilometers per hour for some areas. And you're really going to want to try and clean your storm drains over the next, I'd say, 24 hours to try and clear the way for that rain to fall, because again, anywhere from 10 to as much as 20 millimeters is possible with that system. So as we head into Thursday, this low will stick around. We're going to get that wraparound colder air again, which means things will change over to snow along the west coast. And then we're going to potentially even see some snow as we head towards eastern Newfoundland as well. At this point, doesn't look like too much of accumulation, but still that risk will continue. That low will stick around but hang out just offshore. So we're going to see the potential for some flurries, certainly along the coast, and again, onshore flurries for the west coast. And then the next one moves in for the weekend. So this one looks like it's taking a southerly track. Have to nail this one out a little bit, but we could see some more snow with that, depending on how far west this tracks. We could also see some more rain and warmer temperatures with that one. So just keep trucking on as we go over the next little bit, because it is going to be a very active weather pattern. And then as far as temperatures go, it's going to be a roller coaster. So above zero and then back hovering near or below zero as we head towards the weekend. That's that next system I was just showing you. So those numbers will likely change over the next little bit, but it does look generally gray right through Saturday, with the temperatures dipping well below zero by the time Saturday night rolls around. And then for central Newfoundland, generally cloudy for Friday, and temperatures hovering near or just below zero. Same thing for Saturday, with that potential for some more flurries for you. And then for western Newfoundland, onshore flow, which means those temperatures will be below zero and about minus double digits by Friday night. And just staying cloudy through the day on Saturday. For eastern Labrador, some flurries possible. Your temperatures are hovering near or just below zero for the next little bit, and then they drop a little bit as we head towards the weekend, get into some of that colder air. But it does look like Saturday, as of now, looks pretty nice, -5. But temperatures dipping overnight, certainly. For western Labrador, you're looking at the same thing. Gray skies as we head through Thursday. Friday, it looks like a return of that sunshine, but your temperatures will be sitting in the minus teens. Anthony?
Thanks, Ashley. To the mainland now, where seniors in a small southwestern Ontario community have a new place to exercise. It's a belly dancing class, but it's about more than just trying to stay or get fit. CBC videographer Katerina Georgieva went to see and hear it all for herself.
1, 2, 3, circle. When I saw it, they had belly dancing. I thought, oh, I got to try that. You know, growing up, you didn't want to move your hips, you didn't want to move your breasts, but, you know, it's like suddenly you're welcome to do it. And after a certain age, who cares? So that's what I did.
Everybody's got a Shakira trying to get out.
It's good for exercise. It exercises all parts of you, including your memory, your mind. And it's really fun when somebody asks you what you're doing down at that centre, and you say, I'm doing belly dancing, and they look. I mean, it's such a surprise.
Why do you think people get so surprised when you tell them?
Because I think they're thinking of the dance of the 7 veils, you know, but it's not an entertainment for men. It's always women who do it together, and if we get a man coming through here, he usually looks very embarrassed.
Belly dance is supposed to be really inclusive. It shouldn't matter what body type or size you have, whether you're petite and really small or larger, more voluptuous. We can celebrate our bodies no matter what shape they are. I think it's really good for women. And I see it in the older women. I see them get confidence from it, as well as the physical benefits that come with it. And they have a ton of fun. Like, what grandma gets to go out and have fun and shake their booty with their friends?
How cool is that to find that freedom at this point in your life?
Well, you know, it's like stopping wearing makeup, you know? I wear makeup once a week now. Obviously, I don't have any on today. And because who cares? I let my hair go natural and that was it.
Women are, I think in society, we tend to feel more self-conscious. Like, you know, do we let our hair grow? Do we have our makeup on? Do we let our hair go gray? You know, what clothes do we wear? And in the belly dance, you don't have to worry about any of that. You can just let that go. It's pretty fun to tell your grandkids that you're belly dancing.
Now back at home, parents, teachers and students from Bishopfield Elementary in St. John's got together this weekend for the 3rd annual student art exhibition. And every single student had a piece of art on display at this exhibition. The school has been closed for almost 3 years after a portion of the roof collapsed. The students have been taking classes in a different school and they were all very excited for a chance to be in one space together again.
So basically everybody here designs an art that they do, and then everybody gets to go put it up on the wall, and then people go look at it, and then it's great to see everybody here. Well, the art show is really important because we started it when we were at our old school, and we wanted something to kind of remember and bring everyone back down where we live and by our school. So it was kind of just a thing that started to bring everyone closer. I helped set up this, and it's fun to play around, and it's also fun to see how good other people's art is and what they did.
So I first organized this art show 3 years ago as an initiative to bring the community together, because it's something we really miss. We're across town, and it's hard for families and to see each other, you know, and parents to meet up and chat. And Bishopfield is a community school, very community oriented.
The weather got you down? We got a sea of white out there, but I think we're dreaming of different sea of white.
Yeah, big smile, sunscreen, sunglasses.
Just got to bring the beach inside. I'll tell you where this is too when we come back.
Okay, well, before we left on the break, almost a tropical feeling of happiness and joy in the Here and Now studio because of the picture you selected this time around. A bit different than some of the pictures we get.
Mm-hmm. It's another school day. What?
Yeah,
off?
another snow day.
Snow day.
But a snow day in bathing suits and the fun in the sun in the living room.
In the living room. They just needed a pool in there.
They actually look like they're having a great time, as if they actually are at the beach.
It looks like they definitely are. Yeah, this was obviously taken in St. John's, where
poor deluded children. Gorgeous though. So who are these people?
So this is Natalie, Sally, William, and Annie.
Nicely done.
Yeah, so they brought the beach inside to enjoy another snow day. Andrea, their mom, Andrea, sent us that great shot. There was another one too. They wanted to show the snow in the background.
Oh, okay. Well, actually, we've seen enough of the snow. You brought us a lot of the snow tonight, and a little bit more happening on the way in some parts of the province. And if you got a weather picture for us, you can just send it to us. Nice. That's kind of an original one we saw there.
It is, yeah. nlphotos@cbc.ca is where you can send them.
Yeah, I'm not trying to offend all the unoriginal ones we got.
Oh, no. There's lots of original ones. Yes. Anything. And beautiful night, though, at least. Seeing some sunset photos. If you want to check out my Twitter, beautiful. Yeah. Beautiful out there.
Check out Ashley Brawweiler on Twitter and see some photos, maybe get some inspiration and send us one. There you go.
It's a lovely evening.
Ask
all that
and you shall
snow
receive.
and blowing snow has ended.
Yeah, and I have to reluctantly say piling it up all like that is nice. I just wish the guy who did that parking lot would head over to my place.
That would be lovely.
All right, have a great night. Thank you for sharing your evening with us, and we'll see you again tomorrow.
Good night.